Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Connor. Today we're going to be talking about real estate photography. We're going to talk about why it's so important in getting your home sold and what you should be looking for when you're getting it done or doing it yourself. Let's get into it. So why is real estate photography so important? Obviously, with 87% of buyers starting their home search online, it's really important that you're making a good first impression. And the impression is really in the photos. That's what people are looking at. Let's talk about Zillow, for example. When you're scrolling through Zillow, all you see is that first photo. And the reason you might click on one home versus the other home is really, well, do you like the first photo? Ultimately, you could be missing out on a lot of people who might like your home in person, but they just didn't like your first photo. So why are photos so important? It's because the real estate market's online. And if you're not making a good impression of your home online, well, it's going to be tough for you to succeed. Now let's talk about what makes a good real estate photo versus a bad real estate photo. So the main objective with your real estate photo is A, to create a welcoming and inviting appearance for people when they're looking at your home, so they want to see more. And B, to also create a realistic picture of what the home looks like. So you don't want to go above and beyond where it's just not going to be realistic, because you also don't want to disappoint people when they come into your home. So on the spectrum of where your photos should be, I think you should make them a little bit better than reality. That way you're going to invite more people to want to click on it and come in and see your home, but not overly dramatically better, because then when they come and see it, they're going to be disappointed. So what are some of the things that you can do to make it more inviting and appealing, like I'm talking about? Well, one, you're going to want to use HDR photography, and that'll help you brighten up the shadows and also reduce the highlights. So the shadows in the photo are the dark spots, maybe a corner of the room, and then the highlights are going to be the bright spots, maybe where the sun's hitting or a light coming down where there's reflection, the light's bouncing off. Basically, these shadows and these highlights we want to reduce. That way we can get a nice, clean, and consistent appearance with the photo. So here you can see one photo where the shadows are going to be a little bit darker. And here's a photo where the highlights are a little bit brighter. And you can see just because of the light coming in and bouncing off. With HDR photography, you're able to reduce the highlights and brighten up the shadows so that you can get that clean, crisp appearance like this. When you're taking your photos, if you're just taking them with your iPhone, or if you do have a DSLR camera, if you don't have any editing programs, what I would say is just use as much natural light as you can and use most of the lights in the room, as long as they're not creating a lot of highlights there. That way you can get a bright and welcoming appearance for the photos, and you don't have as many shadows in there. If you don't have the right equipment, I would prefer to have the photos be a little bit too bright than to be a little bit too dark. When the photos are dark, I think it makes people a little bit more uncomfortable. It just doesn't give off the right appearance that you want. So err on the side of brightness if you don't have all the right equipment and the software in terms of the editing software to really fine tune it, because that'll give you the best result. What you can do is you can use some free editing programs as well, which I'll put in the description. In my opinion, the best program for editing real estate photos, and really photos in general when we're talking about the light and the color balance and all of that, is going to be Lightroom. I think Adobe Lightroom is the best program for that. It's really geared towards editing those small details and adjusting the light and the color balance and the shadows and the highlights and a million other things. But that's definitely the best program for it. There are also some free alternatives out there which you can try out. But as far as the process to take a good real estate photo, I would recommend using a good DSLR camera with lighting equipment. And then take that HDR photo that you take within the camera and then export that to Lightroom. In Lightroom, you can touch up the colors and the contrast and the highlights and the shadows and a million other things. And then you can get the photo to look a lot better and to fix any imbalances that might have happened during the shoot. Maybe you had a yellow light coming across or a blue light or too much of this or that, and you can kind of fix that. So then I would take that photo that you finish in Lightroom, once it's all touched up, and I'd bring it over to Photoshop and just make any minor tweaks, little fixes here and there. From there, I would export it, and now you've got your finished real estate photo. Now I would do this for every single one of them, and I would recommend having as many photos as you can, because in general, more photos is going to help your listing convert better. Now, as always, I wouldn't take that to the extreme. and you don't necessarily want very redundant photos in there. But for the most part, if you've got a bigger house, multiple rooms, maybe a pool in the back, you can also do some drone photographs, I would recommend adding in as many angles as you can, so it really gives people a good idea of what the home looks like. So why are real estate photos so important? Well, it's because real estate's online, and agents and buyers are looking at your home online. If you're not making a good first impression with that first photo, you're going to be missing out on a lot of buyers. And what makes a good real estate photo? Well, it's got to be consistent. You don't want too many shadows. You don't want too many highlights. You want a nice, clear, and balanced photo that's welcoming and inviting and looks like a place that you'd want to go to. If it makes you a little uncomfortable, I can tell you it's going to make buyers feel uncomfortable too, where it's not even their home. They've never been there. And what's our process for editing a good real estate photo? Well, one, taking it in a high quality HDR with good lighting equipment, and then bringing that photo into Lightroom for some touch-ups and corrections, and then making some minor touch-ups in Photoshop from there, doing a final export at maximum quality, and now you've got your finished real estate photo. If you found this video to be helpful, or if you liked it, go ahead and give it a like. And if you like real estate or you want to get more into the industry, get to know a little bit more about it, go ahead and subscribe. We make more easy to digest videos just like this about real estate topics, and we're happy to help. Until next time, this is Connor. Have a great day.